So we recently posted a teaser reveal for our next project, Snowlands. I suggest you watch it if you haven't already. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about what this project is all about, why I decided to make a feature film, and what are the next steps. So before we get into the film, we need to go back a year or so to the beginning of 2018. We just released our third animated short, Tasteful. I was taking it easy, not jumping to the next project just yet, and instead I was focusing on developing our course platform, adding more courses, improving the infrastructure, and bringing it to the level I thought it needed to be. A few months later, I started thinking about the next steps. My first instinct was to make another animated short. It seems like the logical thing to do. But then I started thinking about what's going to be different about this one. I could make it longer, like maybe 20 minutes long with a bigger team. And at that point I had to ask myself, what was the goal of making these shorts to begin with? My first short was created as part of my school program. My second one was created so I can document the process of making a film by myself and grow an audience on YouTube and on the website. My third film was a bigger version of that, bringing in a team and managing a bunch of artists and documenting even more of the process. So I asked myself, what is the long-term goal I'm trying to achieve with Bloop Animation Studios? And the answer is making animated films. That means that at some point, sooner or later, if I really want to go for it all the way, I'll have to tackle the notion of making a full-length animated feature film. The problem with making an animated feature film is that, unlike live action, you can't pull one off with $5,000 and 4 of your best friends. There's simply no way to make a CG feature film on a tiny budget. Not only that, but even with a large budget, it would still take a few years to complete. It seemed like an impossible goal, but there was simply no point in not going for it anymore. Making more shorts at this time will not take me or the studio forward, and it won't benefit my audience as much as it did before. So the only option was to try and do it. So then I outlined the steps for making this happen. The steps were actually pretty simple. Not easy, but simple. Write a screenplay, find representation, use representations to get meetings with studios, get a studio to fund the film, and make the film. Pretty simple, right? There's of course many variations to this path, and each step is incredibly challenging, but at least there was a general path to go through. This means that for the first time since I started Bloop Animation 6 years ago, I will need to look for funding. It's something I would have loved avoiding. The studio has always been profitable and self-sustained, but for something as big as this, which will require over $10 million, there was simply no way around it. So back to the steps. What I knew for sure is that none of the steps mattered if I didn't have an amazing screenplay. So that would have to be my main focus. So if you're wondering what I've been doing since finishing Tasteful, that was it. Writing a screenplay. And because I'm pretty thorough, I first had to learn how to write a screenplay for a feature film. So that's what I did. For the past year or so, most of my time was invested in just that. I was writing every single day. When I wasn't in the mood to write, I read books about writing, and I read them all. When I was outside, I listened to the audio version of those books. When I didn't feel like reading about writing, I read screenplays of great films and studied them. When I didn't feel like reading anything, I just watched movies. I did that every single day. I probably crammed about 4 years of writing education into one. 2 complete different drafts later, hundreds of revisions, and now it's done. You might be wondering why I didn't share any of this with you until now. And my honest answer is that I just didn't know if I can do it. Writing the script was the hardest thing I ever did in my professional life, and it was an excruciating process. At many different times I didn't think I'll make it through, and I didn't want to announce something that won't end up happening. I actually did quit it a few times, but now it's finished and I'm very happy with how it turned out, so I decided to officially announce it. I promise I will make another video on the process of writing it, including all the resources I used, and there's a ton of them, but that's gonna come out later. And now for the bad news. Making this film will most likely take about 4 to 5 years, and that's if everything goes amazingly well. That's a long time. But the good news is that once production actually starts, I will have a team dedicated to documenting the process. Actually having them with us in the studio, posting every week or so, showing you what it's like from the inside. It will be the most transparent making of an animated film ever done. But I'm getting ahead of myself, let's go back to the steps. There's still a lot of work to be done. I'll need to start booking meetings and pitches, looking for a studio or a distributor to finance the production. It'll be a long and grueling process, and I don't really know how much of it I'll be able to share as I do it. But for now, we can at least talk about the screenplay part of making the film. So look out for that soon. I'll tell you all about the story, the characters, whenever I can without spoiling anything. This is going to be by far the biggest thing that Bloop has ever done, and myself also. And I really appreciate your positive comments for the teaser. It really helps knowing that you guys are out there getting excited also. And before I go, I'd just like to share some personal news with you. My wife and I recently had a baby boy. It's our first kid, and we're both very, very excited. That might mean updates will be slower to come in the next few months, but they are coming. Thanks again for watching. Talk again soon.